Hey everybody, this is Christine with Vital Vessels, and we are sitting in a coffee shop, and I am with an honored guest today. My guest today is Shawna. Hello and welcome to Vital Vessels.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm so good.
This woman sitting with me today is the inspiration behind many things that I do with organ donation. The donation team gave me a list of people who had donated an organ, and I could reach out to them and find out what they'd been through, their experience. And one of those people on the list was Shawna. And thank you for driving so far and coming out and seeing us. So I want to ask you some questions. And we've talked a little bit about what it was like to go through this process. Tell me first about your recipient. How did you know her?
Oh, so Jess and I met probably about 14 or 15 years ago now. She was hired as a brand new teacher, her first teaching job, and I was assigned to be her mentor. And me and my other friends, we just kind of sucked her into our friend group. We didn't really give her a choice. She was going to be one of us. And so we worked together for about 3 years, I'd say. And then I left the school, went to another school district, left her behind, but we still stayed friends, kept in contact.
Right.
Eventually she moved to a different school too. And then there came a year where, if I'm remembering this correctly, her school district was shifting their insurance. And she was going to lose her whole liver support team, because her insurance wasn't going to cover them anymore. So I believe she reached out to me and said, are there any job openings in your district that you know of? And it just happened to be at that moment in time, there was a position at my school in the grade that she preferred. And so I was able to bring her over, help her get that job. And we got to hang out a whole lot that year. And then that year turned out to be pivotal in that whole experience. Her doctors at that point told her that she was healthy enough that if she ever wanted to have a baby, that was the time to do it. And she got pregnant, spent that whole school year being pregnant. And weirdly, at that same time, I was starting to feel the call to be a donor. I'd always known that she was going to need a donor at some point, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just feeling like someone needs something from me. And I began the process to be a kidney donor, a non-directed kidney donor. And went through that whole process and was denied. They said my kidneys need to stay together. Well, she had her baby, and that pregnancy took a toll on her liver. Within I think it was about 10 months after she delivered, that they put her on the transplant list. And she had just let me know, it's happening, I'm going on the list. And I said, I didn't even give her a choice. I said, right, you send me the link, very first thing. And she did, and I was the first one to sign up. And I ended up being her perfect match.
That is amazing.
So it still gives me chills.
It's such an emotional decision when you find the person that needs you and you know you've had the calling. Yeah. And I get choked up.
Me too.
Tell me about how your family received this news that, hey, I'm going to go under the knife and give someone an organ. And
then I just remember this one day telling my mom, so my friend is finally on the transplant list and I'm going to go for it. And my mom said, well, of course you are. And the rest of the family said, well, of course you are. And there was never any doubt. In fact, my mom told me later on, she says, I knew from that moment that you would be her match. And they just 100% support.
That is amazing. Yeah. It's such a great story because you knew there was no doubt.
Yeah. I think so. Jesse and I've had that talk too.
Have you?
We both kind of knew, but we didn't acknowledge it verbally. Like we didn't want to jinx it. Oh. So at one point during the process, I went and saw her and I just said, so I'm this far in the process. Everything has gone so well. And this is what's next. And we'll just see. But she was really good. She never asked me how things were going. She never put any pressure on me. Yeah. And I just, after that point, I just kept it quiet. At that point, she'd already heard from several cousins and other friends that they'd been turned down, that they'd been eliminated. But I just kept it quiet. But I think as we talked after the fact, like we both kind of had that little thought in our brains that there were too many things in our past, too many coincidences. Well, is it a coincidence or is it God? But too many things lined up just so at the right time in the right place.
That's amazing. I felt the same inspiration. I had the same things that happened. They were slightly different, but I still had that feeling that I had to give back and I had to do this. Tell me about the process. When you filled out the paperwork, what happens first? I want this to be kind of an educational platform so you know what to expect. Tell me about your experience in the process.
So the first thing is when you fill out the form, it's this long medical history. Like you've got to, the average, the regular stuff, height, weight, age, blood type, all that stuff. But they're also asking about any medical trauma you've had in the past, any operations you've had. They're asking about family medical history, different types of cancer that might be in your family, or this, that, or the other. They're also asking about your mental health. They want to make sure that you are.
We're crazy.
Good. Yeah, that's funny. I don't know if you met Dr. Gilroy.
Yes, I have.
The first thing he said to me. Did he say it to you?
Okay, so now we have a coincidence.
Yes.
And Dr. Gilroy, when you see this, the first thing out of his mouth was,
"So are you crazy?"
Are you crazy? Yes.
I don't know what you said. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
It's so true. That's the first thing he said. Are you crazy?
I'd heard from other people that he says that to everyone that comes in.
Oh, I thought I was unique.
Yeah. No,
Dang it.
That's his jam.
All right.
Yeah. So you fill out that whole form and submit it, and then you wait. And then you get a phone call from a transplant coordinator that says, so everything on your form looks good. You look like you could be potentially a good match. We want to do some more testing. And then they start bringing you in. They do blood tests, so many blood tests, and urine tests, and CT scans, and they do a kind of an ultrasound that's called a fibroscan, and they do
I remember that.
MRIs, and you have to talk to a social worker, and you have to talk to a psychologist, and you have to talk to the transplant. All these people screening you. So they're looking at all the medical stuff, but also all the emotional, physical, social stuff.
Right.
And for me, that process lasted 2 months. We really clipped through it all.
You clipped through it. Mine took a little bit longer.
Yeah, it was during the summer for me, so I was off work, and I just like let's go, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so then I guess at that point the whole team gets together, and then they make that decision.
Yeah, that's what I heard. They have a board meeting. The doctors get together. They look at the recipient and they look at you, and I think it's pretty anonymous because it needs to be really unbiased and very arbitrary. Okay, do these two people match? And then they all get to vote, basically.
Yeah, right down to the nurses, the phlebotomists, everybody.
Yes. Yeah. And do you remember when you got the call that you were a match?
That's when the chills and the feels really.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
We were back at school at that point, and I was in a meeting with our second grade team. And it was a Thursday, and I normally did not take my phone to these meetings. I hadn't expected to hear anything until the next day, because our coordinator had kind of said that's the soonest we'll know anything.
Right.
I just happened to have my phone with me at that meeting, and it rang, and I saw the hospital's name on it, and my heart seized up, and I just grabbed my phone and said, I ducked out of the room, went to another room and took the call, and she said, you are a good match for your friend. And I couldn't even speak. I'm like, just that wobbling in your voice and the tears. I said, really? Like, really? Are you sure? And just, had that conversation real quick. She talked about, so if you're good with this, then you're going to go into a 2-week waiting period to kind of just think about things, reflect on it, make sure that you really have all your questions answered, that you're certain this is what you want to do.
Right.
And I just remember walking back into the meeting with the teachers, and they looked at me and went, "What's wrong?" Like they could tell. Like I don't know if I was
the blood drained out of your face.
They said, "What's wrong? Something's wrong." I went, "No, it's so good. It's so good." And I'm like, I wanted Jesse to be the first one I told.
Right.
But you can't, like in that moment. So I told him.
I know. You just burst.
You guys. And I went to the office and same thing. Told all the people in the office, you guys. Told the family. And it was.
Tell me about the moment that you told Jess.
Best day ever. I had found this cute little plush liver on Amazon. And I'd had it sitting in my cart for over a month. Just like, don't want to jinx it again. Don't want to push that button before it's solid. But as soon as, right after I told the team that I was accepted, I got that ordered. And looking at when it was coming, I kind of planned ahead and said, okay, I texted her and said, hey, Jess, can I come over and visit you? Sometime this weekend, will you be around? I've got something for you. She had no notion at all that that's what was going on. And so she just opened up this little gift and pulled out the card and read it. And she read it, and her husband read it. And you could tell when the penny dropped, and they just went, are you serious? Are you kidding me? And I'm like, just tears, just emotional. So lots of hugs. Her husband instantly got on the phone, texted her whole family. We've got a liver. Her sister buzzed over as quick as she could. Just everyone was so excited. And I just she said afterwards, she said, I thought you were going to bring me over some like silly T-shirt or something. I wasn't expecting you to give me a liver. So, but it was the best day. I went home.
Two livers.
Yeah, I went home and journaled the whole thing, and it was still remains one of my best days ever.
Oh, that's amazing. What a great story. And you are so much better at chronicling what went down, because I tried, but I didn't do as good. I love the pictures that you sent me, and having the experience of meeting you here today and going through this story and listening to it and hearing all those similarities is just amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And the one thing that you said to me that I knew my decision was made when you texted me this big long text about all the symptoms, all the stuff, everything you're going to go through. And then the next text said, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. She didn't regret the decision. And I knew that if someone didn't regret it, I would not regret it either.
Right.
And so that's basically the inspiration, was that you don't regret it, that it is the best day of your life. And so that answered prayer, that God shot, it rippled forward to someone else.
That's huge to me.
Because I know what you do in your life today to promote organ donation. And she may become a collaborator on this channel. So this will be really cool.
Yeah.
And I know how passionate you are. And I want you to know that passion has been paid forward through me.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I remember there was a Facebook post I wrote before you and I met way back, and it felt at the time like that was all I was talking about on Facebook was this experience. And I remember saying something like, I know you people probably just want me to shut up about this. It's all you hear me yap about anymore. But if I can just impact one life beyond Jess's, then it's all worth it. And the feedback from that was, oh, you've definitely impacted more lives than that. And that inspired you to keep going. Like, well, okay, if it's working, if it's what I'm supposed to be doing, I'll keep doing it.
Right. Yeah. Which brings me to the question I wanted to ask. We both know how intense this whole process is, and I want to talk about that for a minute. When you went in, what was your surgery date?
January 5th, 2021. Right smack dab in the middle of that awful COVID winter where the hospitals were just slammed. Yeah. It was a little scary, but
tell me about that day you walked in, because did you get to walk in together?
No, we didn't. So she and her husband and my mom and I, we all stayed in hotels down in Salt Lake because we all live up north. My alarm did not go off that morning. Yeah, you have to be there at like 4 o'clock.
4 or 5 in the morning.
Early, and I didn't sleep much that night. Obviously, just a lot of tossing, a lot of brain things going on, and my alarm didn't go off, but I was still out of it enough that I was like checking all the time, but it didn't go off, and I missed it by maybe 20 minutes and freaked out because you still got to do the shower with the antibacterial soap and all the things before you can even go to the hospital. And so we were scrambling hard to get there. And I guess Jess was sitting there in the waiting room freaking out, like she's coming, she's coming, right? So like she's not going to just. So yeah, we got there, met them in the waiting room, and because I'd gotten there late, I was doing all my paperwork. And hers was already done, so they were able to take her back and start prepping her before I was ready to go. Oh. And so we just were able to give each other one last hug before she went back. And even then, like jitters, but not just nervous. How's this all going to play out? But we knew everything was going to be okay. And that's what we said to each other. It's going to be great. It's going to everything. The angels are on our side. It's going to be great. It's going to work.
What did you feel like when you woke up? Tell me about that.
Do you know what the first thing I remember waking up? I don't remember a whole lot because they have us in the ICU for a day or two. Yeah. So I remember waking up and I have this vague memory of complaining about my shoulder hurting. And my mom's like, well, that's weird. Why isn't she complaining about all the other stuff? But you've got a pain block on your abdomen, so you don't feel any of that. Yeah. But that's the first vague recollection.
And then you were up on the transplant floor with Jess. Yeah. How long were you in the hospital?
I was in for 9 days.
Oh, you were there for 9 days.
They had told me probably 5. To begin with. Yep. And then there were a few things that few little blips.
So let's talk about you go home, you're healing, and tell me how this has changed your life. Like I know so many things that you do, but I want you to talk about them a little bit, because again, educational, you get to hear everything, and this changes your life.
Yeah.
It makes you see value in things that you didn't see before. So what do you do now? What is your life like?
So for one thing, and I've told this to a lot of people, I have way more empathy than I had before that, almost to the point of like, turn it off already. I don't want to feel this much, but I do. I feel so much more for people that are struggling, that are suffering. I have so much more empathy for people that have chronic illness, because I've heard so much from Jess about just, and seeing the difference in her life, like what she was like before and what she was like after. And you finally get it. You're like, they really don't have a life when they're dealing with a chronic illness.
And so, the transplant list.
So I have so much more empathy for people that are struggling, that are suffering. And for years before this all happened, I'd been searching for my cause. I've been looking for volunteer opportunities or something, just something to be involved in. And this is the thing. I'm so passionate about it. So I participate in monthly classes for potential recipients, and I tell the donor side.
Which I'm jealous. I want to do it.
Oh, yep. I know who to hook you up with.
Okay.
I go a little crazy on social media.
Yes, you do.
Especially in April.
And I love it.
During Donate Life Month.
April is Donate Life Month, so don't forget that.
It's a big deal. Lots of fun activities the whole month. It's fabulous.
That's right. And where did you go just recently?
Oh, I found this group on Facebook, Worldwide Organ Donors. And
Worldwide Organ Donors. Go look them up.
Yeah, it's amazing. The lady that started that group is just dynamite. This is her cause as well, and she does so many things. But a couple of years ago, she started doing cruises for organ donors. Cruises.
Right.
So I joined this group, and about 3 days later, I kid you not, 3 days later, they're talking about this year's cruise, which was to Alaska. And I have been dying for 5 years to go to Alaska on a cruise. And I'm like, the time's not right, the money's not right, I don't care, I'm going.
You're doing it anyway.
I'm doing it.
I know, she tried to talk me into it, and I couldn't make it work.
It would have been so fun. So fun.
It would have been.
Anyway, so I took my mom. My mom was my caretaker when I was going through all this, and she lost out on a cruise to Alaska during COVID.
Oh, okay.
So if I hadn't asked her, I would have been disowned, right?
Right.
So I took my mom and all these other donors, a couple of recipients, a lot of the donors, caretakers. There was a group of, I don't know, I think I met maybe 15 of this group.
Oh, wonderful.
My mom and I weren't as involved with all of them. We kind of made our plans based on my mom's mobility rather than, keeping up with the group. But because we were wearing all of our donor attire and Donate Life patches everywhere, and I was carrying my little frog. It has a Donate Life.
It's a Donate Life
Fairbanks, the frog.
Fairbanks is his name.
He's adorable.
Why is he named Fairbanks?
Because we were going to Alaska.
Oh, Alaska.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
And he went everywhere.
He went everywhere.
I saw him.
He was in all my pictures. Yep. I have more pictures of Fairbanks.
It was awesome. You do.
I do. I'm not a selfie queen, but Fairbanks got it.
I got selfies.
Popped into frame.
You know me.
Yeah. But the chance to just educate people and share. Like, I maintain, I've said this online and face to face so many times, we are all connected in some way to someone that has had a transplant, who has needed a transplant, who has tried to donate, who knows someone who has done. Like, we're all connected somehow. And when those conversations start, those connections come out of the woodwork, and it's mind blowing. But that's the other change that I've seen in my life. I'm so much more connected in this world than I thought it was.
I didn't realize that either until after the surgery, when I would tell people, and they would say, my cousin, my uncle, my brother, and you're connected to them all of a sudden.
Yeah.
My husband passed away waiting for a kidney, and all of a sudden you are someone that gave.
Yeah.
And it's like you're their angel.
Yeah.
Which you are.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange to think about, but we are.
Yeah.
And not very many people get the opportunity to be a big part of saving a life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without a medical degree or anything.
Right.
But we get to.
Yeah.
And that's why I am so grateful to have met you with your passion and all the things you do. There are teams you've been telling me about, like be an ambassador for this. Tell me about those things you're doing.
Well, I found out about some of these through that Worldwide Organ Donors group.
Yeah.
So you can be an ambassador for UNOS, the United Network for Organ Sharing.
UNOS.
Yeah, UNOS.
Look them up.
Yeah. And they're a lot about education as well. They share statistics and facts. They'll share the number of people that are on the registry for individual organs, how many are active, how many are maybe inactive off the list per minute. They are highly involved in a lot of the policy making, both with government, with medical facilities, and they share all that information with their ambassadors so that we can go out and share that information with the public.
Right.
Donor Connect here in Utah does the same thing. They have a volunteer corps.
And so you're an ambassador for Donor Connect?
I've applied. I haven't been back yet. I'm hoping that comes through.
I'm waiting too.
They're amazing. They do some really good work.
They are.
Donate Life America. They're amazing because they're in every state. Got the Donate Life license plate on my car, so wherever I go, the message is going with me.
She's an inspiration. I need to get my license plate cover now. It is very cool. And tell me the stickers. We've got these cute little coffee mugs. Mine says, "Organ donors tougher than your average Abrams." That's a tank for all you guys out there. I didn't know it was a tank. Getting laughed at. What does yours say?
This one says, "She needed a hero, so she became one."
That's right. So tell me, tell us what advice you would give to someone that's considering. What would you tell that person that is watching this podcast saying, "What about me? Maybe I should." What would you tell them?
Well, listen to your heart, for one thing. I think that's a commonality I've found with a lot of donors, is that they feel that calling, or it's like something deep down in their gut that you either know if you're the type of person that can do this or if you're not. And if you have serious reservations, then ask questions. A lot of us, I think, don't have those reservations because we just know that this is meant to be, we're going to do it, and the answers to those questions can come later. But either way, you need to ask the questions. You need to get the information that you need. Talk to other donors. Talk to your recipient if you're matched already. Ask the doctors, the nurses, the coordinators, the social worker. Ask them all the things. Get all the information before you go in. I felt a little, maybe I was a little arrogant going in. Like I thought I knew what it was all going to be like, and I didn't ask as many questions as I probably should have. So there were a few things I was kind of surprised by in recovery. Just like,
can you think of one of those things that surprised you?
The recovery time. Like I know they said, you're probably going to take 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks to recover. It kind of varies. I planned on 6 weeks. So I had taken 6 weeks off work, and then with my little setbacks in the hospital, and then the weight still didn't drop off, the water weight. It took another 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital to get rid of that. So that kind of delayed my recovery. So I had to add an extra 2 weeks off work. And then even then I knew when I went back to work, I wasn't up to going back full time right away.
Right.
So I took another 2 weeks that was just half time and took it at my own pace. I cannot overstate the importance of activity, walking and keeping yourself up and moving and active. And I hated that part, hated it. But yeah, I think you just listen to your gut. And if you know hardcore that it's what you're supposed to do, you still want the information, but it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to be. And again, I'm a person of faith. It is going to work out the way it's supposed to be. I've heard from other people who it hasn't worked out the way they wanted it to work out, but it did work out the way God intended. And sometimes it's heartbreaking when it doesn't go the way you want it to.
Right.
But things will go as they're supposed to.
The one thing that I learned from this process is that it's a lot safer than you think.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as dangerous. And I don't want to sugarcoat.
No.
Because you do have a process of healing, and it's serious, and you have to take it serious. But they vet you so well. They go through everything, like you talked about, all the EKGs and the MRIs and the CT scans. They will scan and make sure that the best possible odds.
Their intention is to not end up with 2 sick people. We already have, and they'll flat out tell you, we have 1 sick person. We don't want to make another person sick in the course of making this person well.
Absolutely.
And they tell you at every visit, at every conversation, you are our priority. We want to make your recipient well, but you are the priority because you are healthy now. We want to keep you healthy. You're the one sacrificing something. We need to make sure that there's no regrets at the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was the one thing I remember. And I felt like they were trying to talk me out of it on many occasions.
Yeah, almost.
Did you go through that too?
A little bit.
But I had such a passion, that inspiration, like you said, if you're feeling the calling, go with it. Trust your instinct, trust your higher power to guide you. Trust your gut and follow through and save a life. I'd highly recommend it.
For sure. Me too.
Thank you so much, Shawna. I am blessed. I'm honored, and I know that there was something bigger than us that brought us together and made it possible for us to meet today too.
Absolutely.
To talk about organ donation, to tell the public how safe it is and how comfortable
and how rewarding
it is. Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.